Politics was once about finding common ground, even with your fiercest opponents. President Lyndon B. Johnson, a Texas Democrat, mastered this art of twisting arms, making deals, and working with Republicans like Everett Dirksen to pass landmark laws, including the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Johnson knew governing a diverse nation meant giving a little to get a little. This spirit of compromise powered American democracy for much of the 20th century. Republicans, too, embraced negotiation. President Eisenhower expanded Social Security and built the interstate highway system with bipartisan support. For decades, moderate republicanism meant fiscal responsibility, strong defense, and a willingness to work across the aisle. Governance was a shared responsibility, not a zero-sum game. But a new philosophy began to stir within the GOP, one that saw compromise as betrayal, not necessity. This shift was gradual, starting in the American West and eventually transforming the entire party. The contrast between Johnson's era and today is stark. Where leaders once found common cause, now they often speak past each other. Reaching across the aisle is now seen as weakness. The move away from compromise has deep roots. To understand how the GOP became the party of Donald Trump, we must look back to 1964, when a senator from Arizona offered his party a choice between different worlds. He lit a fire that would smolder for decades. The era of compromise was ending. A new, more confrontational politics was about to begin. The first tremors of change shook the GOP in 1964. Senator Barry Goldwater of Arizona challenged the party's moderate establishment with a bold, uncompromising conservatism. His book, The Conscience of a Conservative, became a rallying cry for activists tired of compromise. Goldwater railed against the New Deal, called for privatizing Social Security, and opposed the Civil Rights Act, alienating some but attracting disaffected white Southerners. His campaign was about starting a revolution, not just winning an election. Though he lost in a landslide, his supporters built a powerful grassroots network and took over local party organizations. A choice, not an echo, became their mantra, rejecting consensus for confrontation. Goldwater's movement planted the seeds for a more ideological, combative GOP. The party's future would belong to those who demanded purity over compromise. The revolution was only beginning. 16 years later, a new leader would carry its banner to victory. Barry Goldwater was the prophet. Ronald Reagan was the great popularizer. Reagan took Goldwater's ideas of limited government, lower taxes, strong military, and made them mainstream. His Morning in America optimism resonated with a weary nation. Reagan built a coalition of economic, social, and national security conservatives, dominating politics for a decade. But unlike Goldwater, Reagan was a pragmatist. He worked with Democratic Speaker Tip O'Neill, passing major legislation through compromise. Reagan's blend of conviction and flexibility defined his era. He pushed the country rightward, but didn't break the system. He even raised taxes and worked with Democrats to save Social Security. Reagan proved a conservative could be both revolutionary and statesman, but the balance he struck would not last. The party was about to become more confrontational. Reagan's coalition was a three-legged stool: economic conservatives, social conservatives, and national security hawks. He united Wall Street bankers, evangelical pastors, and defense contractors under one banner. But their priorities often clashed and the alliance was inherently unstable. Reagan's political skill and the unifying thread of the Soviet Union kept the coalition together. Once he left and the Cold War ended, cracks appeared. The delicate balance unraveled. The party's factions began to pull apart. A new, more confrontational era was on the horizon. The peace of the Reagan years shattered in the 1990s with Newt Gingrich. Gingrich saw politics as warfare, not negotiation. He nationalized the 1994 midterms with a contract with America, promising bold conservative reforms. Republicans swept Congress and Gingrich became Speaker. Compromise became a dirty word. Total victory was the goal. Showdowns with President Clinton led to government shutdowns. The public blamed Republicans, but Gingrich's confrontational style changed the game. Legislative choke points became weapons. The Gingrich Revolution taught Republicans that confrontation paid off. Civility and compromise were casualties. The stage was set for even more radical forces. The era of permanent political warfare had begun. A decade after Gingrich, the Tea Party exploded onto the scene in 2009. Fueled by anger over bailouts and Obamacare, It was a leaderless, anti-establishment movement. Their slogan, "No compromise." The Tea Party demanded strict constitutionalism, deep spending cuts, and ideological purity. They targeted moderate Republicans as fiercely as Democrats. In 2010, Tea Party candidates ousted establishment figures and brought obstruction to Washington. Government shutdowns and brinkmanship became the norm. The greatest threat to a Republican was now a primary challenge from the right. The party moved further from compromise, purging moderates. The stage was set for a figure who could harness this populist fury. When Donald Trump announced his candidacy in 2015, few took him seriously. But he understood the base's resentment and distrust after decades of anti-establishment rhetoric. Trump didn't debate policy, he channeled rage. He amplified Tea Party anger, focusing on immigration, trade, and elite corruption. His raw, unfiltered style and simple slogans electrified disaffected voters. Trump bulldozed his opponents, breaking every rule of political decorum. His supporters saw his crudeness as authenticity. Trump won the nomination by demolishing the old guard. The GOP became a party of identity, not ideas. Ideology gave way to cultural grievance and animosity toward the establishment. Trump staged a hostile takeover, remaking the party in his image. The transformation was complete. The GOP was now the party of Trump. In office, Trump completed the GOP's transformation from ideology to personal loyalty. Dissenters like Jeff Flake and Liz Cheney were driven out. Loyalty to Trump became the only test. Policy and principle were secondary to the president's whims. Free traders embraced tariffs, deficit hawks ignored debt, and foreign policy hawks watched alliances questioned. The party's infrastructure and conservative media became Trump's messaging machine. An alternate reality took hold, where Trump could do no wrong. After the 2020 election, most Republicans echoed his false claims of fraud. Those who defended democracy were excommunicated. The GOP became a movement centered on one man's grievances. The journey from compromise to confrontation was complete. The party's identity was now loyalty, not principle. Under Trump's influence, a new effort emerged, Project 2025. Led by the Heritage Foundation, it's a detailed blueprint for a second Trump administration. The plan seeks to dismantle the administrative state, replacing career civil servants with political loyalists. Sweeping proposals include deploying the military domestically, shuttering the Department of Education, and rolling back climate policies. Power would be concentrated in the president's hands, overriding traditional checks and balances. Project 2025 fuses confrontation, ideological purity, and personal loyalty into a concrete agenda. Critics call it a roadmap to authoritarianism. Supporters see it as reclaiming America. It signals the party's radical new direction. The GOP of today bears little resemblance to the party of Eisenhower or even George W. Bush. The journey from Goldwater to Trump has remade the party. Old factional tensions have been replaced by a unifying populist nationalist ethos. The party's center of gravity has shifted from policy debates to grievance-fueled rallies. The future offers two paths, deeper into Trumpism or a return to traditional conservatism. The first path prioritizes cultural warfare and loyalty. The second would require a painful struggle to reclaim principle. The party's fate, and that of American democracy, rests with its voters. The GOP is now a vessel tossed on stormy seas of populist rage. Where it lands remains uncertain. The GOP's transformation is a warning about democracy's fragility. Democracy depends on shared norms, especially the willingness to compromise. When opponents become enemies, the system breaks down. Compromise is not weakness, it's how a diverse society resolves conflict. Without it, politics becomes a zero-sum game, trust erodes, and polarization deepens. The result, a paralyzed system, unable to solve pressing challenges. Restoring compromise requires courageous leaders, open-minded citizens, and a media that values truth over outrage. The journey from a choice, not an echo, to today shows how quickly norms can unravel. Rebuilding them is essential for democracy's survival. Democracy is a daily choice, and it cannot survive without compromise. Thanks for watching. Stay stronger, stay smarter, stay informed. Like and subscribe for more information and updates.